Welcome again, everyone, to Friends Occasionally Not Disagreeing, the Fawn Pod. We are back again. We got Dan and Justin in the house tonight, and I guess we're giving you a little bonus Spooktober of a way here because somehow we ended up reviewing a zombie-ish movie for this podcast. So even though October has kind of flipped on the calendar, we are still here taking a peek at 28 Days Later, which came up through a series of conversations we had. And it's been, 23 years since this came out. So this would be a good time to go back and take a look at that. Not quite an anniversary per se, I guess a big anniversary at least, but it should be a fun time to go back and talk about this because I don't think I've ever really talked about this one with anybody. Let's find out what the hosts have been up to as of recent. Why don't we kick over to Dan first? Besides raiding all of the Spirit Halloweens in your area, what have you been up to?
Well, obviously celebrating Halloween at multiple levels, scaring all the local neighborhood kids and later on their parents. But so far, no restraining orders, so we're totally okay on that. Continuing to play Ghost of Tsushima, which is just been phenomenal. Then what did I started watching this crazy movie. I can't recommend this, but movie 43. Just looking it up and getting the description, we probably know roughly what it's about. I'm not going to go into it.
40 to 3, yes.
I'm
One
glad I got
better
that
than
number
the
right
answer to
this time.
everything, I guess. That's even
Yeah.
better. And Justin, how about you?
Okay, I was short. Oh, geez, it
That's
has
what she
been
said.
it has been a surprisingly busy week. So I'm kind of glad we're talking about this rather than the original subject we were going to do for this weekend. Cody, I don't think you or I have had a chance to finish that particular game yet. Though, in lieu of trying to make progress on that, I have tried a few others because I don't know if any of the rest of you listeners have noticed, but there's been just an absurd number of good games that have come out recently. So I've started looking at a few that are, well, free to play, just for the fact, that they're easier on my wallet. One of them being, I believe this was like number 9 or 10 on my most anticipated games list of the year. Chaos Zero Nightmare finally came out. And it's a gotcha game. Both of the ones that about to talk about are, but it is basically cosmic horror, sci-fi, Slay the Spire, um, and yeah, it's essentially right up my alley. You still have the random pulls to see if you get characters you want and that sort of thing, but the core gameplay is, yeah, you have decks of cards that you try to play to counter enemy attacks or to do your own attacks or to get more actions. And yeah, it's pretty much everything I was hoping it would be. Great art style. Like some of the creature designs in this are just absolutely phenomenal. The pixel art just incredibly spot on. And it's even atmospheric at times. Like early on in the game, your crew is going through the ruins of Earth, and you come across a bunch of ghouls eating something, and they're all focused on that, all your characters. But in the background, there's like lightning flashing, and the player, sees this gigantic shape that enters the fray like a few seconds later, and it's just like that reveal is fantastic. Um, so yeah, as gotcha games go, it's turn-based deck building. Well, not exactly deck building, but I guess it kind of is actually because you do get cards as you go. But yeah, it's if you like a Slay the Spire type of experience with anime style artwork, and a horror centric story, yeah, it's worth checking out. The other one that I wish I could say more about is one that came out, I think, just a week or two ago as we're recording this. Duet Night Abyss, which is, I guess, kind of like Genshin Impact, big open world, action-oriented gameplay, third-person combat. Um, I wish I could tell you more about it, but you can't invert the camera on a controller when you're playing this. So every time I'm trying to like adjust my view, it goes in the wrong direction if I'm trying to look up or down. So once they patch that in, hopefully they'll patch that in. I'll be able to say more on this game because it looks really, really pretty. And it seems like it's got a nice art style. I don't know much about the world or the setting because, yeah, it's very hard for me to play with uninverted camera controls. I guess I could
Yeah.
use the keyboard and mouse, but it's just, yeah, I'll wait and see if they patch in the controller support.
To be clear, it's not
Uh,
an it's not out of line for you to be asking for a feature that's been in games for 20 years plus.
Right? Yeah, like even if this thing was originally designed for like mobile interfaces or something, I'm not sure if it was.
Yeah.
You should still incorporate something that simple. There's ways to change like the sensitivity of the controls, like you press the stick, it moves this far instead of that far. There's ways to like turn on aim assist and stuff, but there's no way to just invert the camera. Like What?
It's like Halo 1 built it in as part of the gameplay.
Yeah,
Is
yeah.
checking the inverting or not.
Yeah, yeah. So, I mean, maybe I'll just finally cave and try keyboard and mouse. But right now, I do have the other game Cody and I are going to talk about in like a week, so I probably should focus more on that. But I can certainly recommend Chaos Zero Nightmare. That one is very satisfying so far. Uh, that's about it for me. I think I'm kind of tired right now, but yeah, yeah. Cody, what about you?
I won't plug much this week. I'll just say very ecstatic that I dropped several $100s on a Lego the other day, which I'm waiting for to arrive as our family's kind of moved away from the traditional advent calendars, which we did for a number of years, to I got the idea, I think last year or maybe it was 2 years ago now, of like people just buying a bigger Lego set for basically the same price or a little bit more than just do a bag a day or like so many pieces a day type thing because you end up with just such a more impressive build by the end of Advent, other than, these little tiny 10-piece things or whatever you put together. So yeah, that's looking forward to that. It's the Goonies Lego that was originally an idea somebody had proposed to Lego, and it made it through all of the stages to actually be produced and looks awesome. It's One Eye Willie's giant pirate ship on one side, and then when you spin it around, it has like base maybe like 10 scenes from the movie, like the boulder scene and some other cool little scenes that are played in there with the spikes and the organ and some other little tiny scenes from the movie on the backside, which seems really cool. And then if you ordered within the first 7 days, you also got a bonus Lego set, which was the attic scene from the Walsh's attic, where they find like their treasure map, and Mouth puts his tongue through the painting and stuff like
Yep.
that. So that's a little add-on purchase freebie. That's awesome. So I'm excited for that too.
Excellent.
Yeah, so now I'll just have to wait to actually start building it for a while, but that's okay because it'll be fun when the time
Be
comes.
well worth it.
Yeah.
Beyond
Like,
that, not a ton. We're watching season 5 of The Office right now together as a family. And let's see, beyond that, my wife and I finished season 1 of Alice in Borderlands finally. So that is done with one season. I don't know when we'll get to season 2. We may take a pause for a while, kind of juggling a few different shows here. Yeah, but I don't know. Beyond that, a couple of weeks till Wicked Part 2 comes out, so excited to go see that in the theater also. And Stranger Things is on the horizon too, so we got a lot of good stuff coming up here.
New trailer came out on Halloween.
I haven't seen any trailers yet for it, but I did just read is it 8 episodes, but it runs about 12 hours for those 8 episodes. They are going to be quite lengthy, but pretty excited to see that wrap up and what they're going to do with that. So. Yeah, awesome. All right, well, we are here to talk about, as mentioned, Danny Boyle directed 2000 film The Beach. Always a classic. If you wanted to watch a movie that was shitty, check out The Beach by Danny Boyle. But
The
if you
fact that
want
you're
to,
bringing up is making you the beach in this situation.
it's not wrong, yes. I had a hard time believing that was the same guy that does all these other films that he's famous for, but yes. That's kind of the outlier. Now, I'll say Danny Boyle, I've never seen Train Spotting. Have you? I know that's a popular one.
I think I have a long time ago, but
Yeah.
Yeah, I've never seen that one. But then, of course, he's also known for some horror stuff in here and some other things that he's done, including 2002's 28 Days Later, which is what we're actually talking about here today. Let's start with just some base facts on this one again. For ratings out there, IMDb has this at a 7.5, Rotten Tomatoes critics at an 87, Rotten Tomatoes audience at an 85, so unusually close for critics and audience for a film. And then just to clear up any confusion, this is part of a current trilogy composed of 2002's 28 Days Later, 2007's 28 Weeks Later, and 2025's 28 Years Later, not to be confused with two other films that are actually out there, 28 Hours Later and 28 Months Later, which are both films. It seems like looking into them a little bit, one is a real bad, like low-budget fan film-esque type thing, and the other, I think, actually thinks that it's trying to be a movie in this series, but it is not.
28
wow.
days later is a Sandra Bullock one too. So
Oh,
Excellent point.
that transition's super weird.
Well, before and after the outbreak.
Yeah.
You know how that goes. All right. And then this is kind of blowing my mind too, because people ask me, I think my students asked me if I had heard of this one. There is a fourth movie in this series, an official fourth movie, 28 Days Later, The Bone Temple, which already releases this January.
Are you sure that's not like the porn parody? Because that really sounds.
That might be with an extra R you're thinking of there, Justin. And if you want to give her a bone temple, no, we're done with that. We have moved on.
I mean, in Justin's defense, Bone Lake has just come out, and they are leaning very heavily into that.
There we
You're
go.
right.
Yes, apparently that's a movie that at least I read, comes out already January, which is crazy because the other one just
Oh.
came out this year in 2025.
Huh.
I don't know.
Really trying to revive interest in it, raise it from the dead, if you will.
Well, I will say, to the franchise's credit, they have had Danny Boyle actually do all of these, including the new two,
Oh,
which is, I feel like, rare in a horror franchise that somebody stuck with it to do all of them.
Yeah.
I mean,
Yeah.
granted, there was a 18-year break between movies 2 and 3, but still, that feels a little different than most franchises.
And less than canonically should be. So they're
yeah,
still
if
ahead
they
of the
really had
curve.
guts, they would have made it 28 years later, actually.
28 decades later. Dun, 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 dun. Well, I have some questions about that, but we'll get to that. And supposedly this is going to be part of a overall 5-part series, I guess is the plan. They're going to expand this to 5.
Huh.
So I don't know how that will play into it. I have not seen 28 years later. And I was telling Dan before we started on the air here, I don't remember anything about 28 weeks later whatsoever.
Same.
Is that, but maybe we'll get to that sometime as well. So, all right, well, let's jump into the film and just real quick to start with the cast in this one. So let's take a look. It's a zombie movie. There are surprisingly few actors in this movie, including the zombies themselves, really. But basically, we have Cillian Murphy here as Jim. We have Naomi Harris as Selena, Brendan Gleeson as Frank, Megan Burns as Hannah, and then Christopher, I say this guy's name, Eccleston?
Listen.
I would say that guy's name wrong. The bad guy from G.I. Joe.
I think it's Eccleston. I think it's Eccleston.
Eccleston?
I think that's how I remember because he ended up going on to be Doctor Who for a season.
Oh,
and yeah.
That's right.
Yeah.
Forgot Doctor Who was a real thing. I've never seen a Doctor Who episode of any.
Doctor Who isn't real, Cody. He's a fictional character.
But he was just named
the TARDIS. The TARDIS is real.
the Health Organization for the United States. Are you sure? RFK is Doctor Who. Doctor Who believes in these diseases and vaccines. Am I right? Hey. Anyway, he's playing Major Henry West here. So those are our 5 principal leads in the movie here, and then we have some smaller characters past that. Although not a ton of smaller characters past that again. And then obviously the zombies question mark. So we'll talk about that too. But of the 5, anybody stand out for you rewatching this or from your memories? I'm assuming, but correct me if I'm wrong, everyone had seen this long ago as well.
Yeah, I saw it in theaters when it first came out, and honestly, the fact that this movie is now old enough to drink is it's really messing with my head right now.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, Cillian Murphy as Jim, as the main protagonist, he's fairly easy to relate to, I think. He wakes up in the middle of this event that has happened. So he's kind of a stand-in for the audience where, I mean, yeah, we understand kind of what's happening, but we're getting acquainted to the world that now exists at the same time that he is. So I think using him as both a character and as that framing device is kind of is a good idea. Even if zombie movies are zombie movies, where you kind of have an idea of what's going to happen anyway. It still is a nice nod towards exploring the world along with a character in it.
Yep. He becomes our foil. And full credit to him, the full frontal nudity in the beginning, bold, but impressive.
Yeah, I wasn't expecting that when I went to the movies in 2002.
Right. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, it's a small cast, but I think they all do, at a minimum, a serviceable job in their roles. Some are given a little less to do, I think, with their character than some of the others, but it's, with a small cast, it's probably fine. And it's also small enough that you actually get what feel like maybe some deeper, more believable relationships between the characters than we might with a bloated cast as well. So that's
Yep.
kind of nice.
And it makes any of the deaths of any of these characters more impactful because you don't have that many characters to spare.
Yeah, absolutely. All right.
I'll give
Oh,
a
good.
call out to Brandon Gleeson, who at this point, when this movie came out, he was not Mad-Eyed Moody in Harry Potter yet. So my experience was like the guy from 28 Days Later, all of a sudden he's in Harry Potter. That was interesting, especially since spoilers as that thing, the blood drops into his eye. Then all of a sudden him showing up with the weird eye, I was like, is this a subtext connecting the but it wasn't. It wasn't. So
The
but
universes are connected.
but seeing his kind of like rage character, not so much rage, but like his character who had like was obviously very protective, like of the kid, had like a lot of strong motivation, like kind of seeing that and then seeing almost a toned down version, but still in the universe, still a little bit ramped up, moody. I was like, oh, this is interesting, kind of seeing the range of this particular actor.
Yeah.
Yeah. And, I did like Selena, Naomi Harris, her portrayal as the female protagonist. Yeah, just very much a no nonsense. Look, you get bitten. I don't care who you are, you're dead. Because otherwise we're all dead. She actually was the voice of reason throughout a lot of this movie, and it was good to see like a character in a zombie movie that realizes the stakes, at least for a good portion of it. Her character changes a little bit as time goes on, but yeah, just seeing someone who is actually just no nonsense and not like, but what if no, yeah, it was good to see someone taking it seriously.
Yeah,
So
I'll use that as a jumping off point because I think this stands out as my favorite zombie movie, and I think it's just for what Justin said is that the sense of stakes in this film were so much more impactful than a lot of other zombie films. It just
Hmm.
it I almost want to say it took itself more seriously, but I don't know how accurate that is. But like I felt so much more relatable, or it felt so much more like this is how this would actually play out.
okay.
Fair indeed. All right. Well, I have kind of a condensed version of the plot here, which I'm going to run through, but just purely from like to pause after each set piece to see if you guys had anything in particular that stayed with you guys upon rewatch of this, scenes you liked or performances in that scene or whatever else may have popped into your head as you watched through this. So we start with this. I actually had forgotten, honestly, about the opening scene in this movie, which is the animal rights activists going into this lab essentially to rescue or free, liberate the chimpanzees. And then this one scientist happens to be there, of course, warning them that they were infected with rage. Especially this super bizarre literal set piece with like the monkey strapped into the chair watching these videos of all of these terrible things taking place. And I'm wondering, like, well, would a monkey even react to that? I'm not even sure. Maybe, maybe not. I don't know.
Poor Clockwork Orange monkey.
Yeah, right. So, anything in this opening scene here that stuck with you, any for good or bad or worse? Do you like the way the film started?
I,
Um, the virus had to get out somehow. It. I'm trying to think back to like the early 2000s. Was that when there was like a bunch of like a concern about Ebola and stuff, or was that before that?
It's
Because
probably around then.
I think yeah, I think that was still kind of in the news and in the public consciousness. So using like infected animals, infected in chimps in this case, like as a jumping off point, it felt like it was very much a product of the time. I'm gonna actually look that up in the background here to see
Actually,
like
it
when
says
the
Ebola was 2014 to 2016, so time is a
really
loop, and that was 12 years after this.
sweet mercy. I could have sworn it was like early 2000s.
Yeah,
Huh, I'll be damned. Okay, yeah, just ignore everything I just said because
I've been waiting for you to say that for years. Okay, great.
Oh, I'll say this about the opening scene. The style of it, in terms of this kind of almost found footage-esque, that feeling of not so much handy cam, but like kind of weirder camera angles and a little bit more like raw in terms of that. Like I think
Yeah, good
really
term.
helped set the tone for the rest of the movie. And this too, like obviously later in the house there are a little bit more kind of enclosed spaces, but another thing I really love about this movie is how much of it is in the open for a zombie film.
hmm,
Like it's pretty easy to get a bunch of characters and zombies into a house and then you have to play that kind of like 3D maze, but having it open, having it in the city, I think that is a signature of this movie that I really appreciate. But starting it early in this kind of like isolated space, I thought that was a cool move as well.
Yeah, it's a really great shot of the one cage they open and the chimpanzee just like rushes towards the camera,
Right?
like it makes you feel like ugh, right away.
Hmm.
Uh, did you buy that this is a rage virus? Like, are they producing this with this manipulation of the TV screen somehow that they have, or is this are they studying things that already had this virus? I mean, that part's always been a little unclear to me,
Yeah,
but
like that is a good point because if it is a virus and it makes whatever it infects, uncontrollably angry and violent, then why have the TV screens? But if it's a result of the TV screens, how does it become a virus? Yeah, that part has never really been clear to me. It's just a weird way to study something that causes rage. If like the rage is already there, I don't think exposing a subject to pictures or video of more rage is really going to do anything because it's already angry. So I have some serious questions about the nature of the contagion itself, and I don't think we ever really get it fully explained
Yeah,
unless it was
I
in
don't think it.
28 weeks or something.
Yeah, maybe we'll catch up on the later films and see maybe there's a source. But I'll
Mhm.
for zombie films as a genre where the source of the infection is sometimes like if I feel like very hastily written, like there's somewhere it's like it's an asteroid, it dropped a virus on the planet, or Marvel Zombies, it's like from another dimension, it kind of came over.
Mhm.
So out of what I already give zombie films a pass in terms of explaining the virus, because usually that is the lesser point of the story. It's like, no, let's get to the action. I'll say headcanon is that the film is important. It is an element of creating this virus because I like the element of look at all of this human hate and rage and look how we like someone managed to find a way to almost concentrate it and virusize it, and now we've done it to ourselves. I think that twist on it makes it a little bit more insidious, a little bit more twisted.
yeah,
That's fair.
I
Yeah,
think
and you're right. Zombie films are usually a bit hand wavy as to the exact cause, so that's
Just,
fair.
I think well, there was one
yeah.
that was literally hand waving. So yes.
Okay, so we get this little intro scene, and then we're going to get a little text break that says 28 days later. Not the only time they're going to use that in this film, but we have our main character here, Jim, who is waking up. Essentially, it seems like he had been in a coma from before this all happening and somehow had been protected. So I don't know if this is infected people discerning that he appears dead, or they just never got into him per se when the hospital was overrun, or what the case is here. But he seems to be fine. And essentially, this is again where you're kind of talking about Dan. This next chunk of the movie here, for maybe 5 minutes, does really let us experience that world like through his eyes, right? Because the hospital's empty and the vending machines are destroyed and there's paper flying everywhere. And then he steps outside and you're like, oh shit, like this is citywide. And we're in London of all places because we get some of those landmarks as we're kind of showing around the city, and there's nobody there whatsoever until he finds the essentially giant posting board with all the people like asking
Yeah.
for, have you seen this person, or evacuation orders, or whatever the case may be. So we know there's a story that we're getting very quickly summed up for us as viewers, but we don't have to spend time actually seeing all of that until he enters into a church where we
I'll,
see our first living
I
people. Go ahead.
I do have some reservations about the whole missing persons board thing because we've seen how fast this virus spreads and like how fast and
Hmm.
not even between people, but like you get bitten like 10 seconds later you're a frothing at the mouth raging maniac. So it seems unlikely people would have really had much of a chance to put up, have you seen this person? Because they're probably running through the streets like biting people on the neck and whatnot. I mean, it doesn't that struck me as kind of like a little unbelievable considering the speed at which this seems like it progressed.
Yeah, so I think that makes a lot of logical sense. The point I wanted to bring up really quickly is that one of the reasons they were able to get so much of London empty to film in, which if you think about it, that's a logistical challenge.
Yeah.
They were actually filming this during September 11th. So parts of London were actually started to get shut down because of concerns about terrorist threats. So they actually managed to get some
Oh,
of these scenes empty
Wow.
London because of this terror. And then it's funny
wow.
because you brought up the missing people thing. This was already in the script, but as as that happened, like the actual 9/11 event and like those posters went up of the missing people, like I don't know if it was supposed to be brought in to be like reminiscent, but I think it had that effect. I
Oh.
think logistically you're right. If this is spreading at the speed that it's kind of implying, like maybe this is the first week or two where this is kind of happening and then it drops off suddenly. But I think you also get the benefit that this came out so close to that real life event and they were able to kind of glean a couple elements of it off.
Hmm.
Interesting.
I was going to say too, the only thing I could give them a pass on with the board is if they had really given like evacuate the country order, like as quick as you can get out of the country because there's this new viral contagion or whatnot. I mean, they could literally have you seen this person who's missing because they have evacuated so quickly we don't actually know if they're evacuated or if they're still here someplace. So that could explain a little bit of it, but I don't know. So there's
Yeah.
that. Okay, well, yeah, so he's kind of screaming his head off as he's going through. You got more there, Dan?
Yeah, I do have got one more
Yep.
point because I looked it up. The waking up in a hospital alone zombie trope. It looks like this film did it first. The Walking Dead comic series came out 2003, and then obviously the show came out like 2010.
Hmm. Excellent. Okay, back to the rest of this little set here where we have him going into a church. I don't, we don't really see through the movie that he is overtly religious, so why this guy exactly chose to go into a church as a location, I'm not as positive, but he does and finds scene that stuck with me right away, I will tell you, is when he walks in and there's what's the thing on the wall? It's like the end is fucking nigh or something.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And it is
Very
written
fucking
so
nigh.
ridiculously high on the ceiling or the wall that I'm like, who had a 40-foot ladder inside this church that they put up to write this thing? And like, it's comically high. But anyway. But here he hears some shuffling for the first time and he sees this priest who has, I guess, the virus, but a much slower version of the virus. He doesn't run after him like the other ones do.
Maybe
He's
he
still
was
kind of
injured.
twitching.
Like, that's the only thing I can think of. Like, hurt leg, so he couldn't really run. But yeah, that's weird that he behaved
Maybe
differently.
he had arthritis before he was a zombie.
Yeah, he could be.
You just
And
stay
then
right there. I'm coming for you.
And in the main room of the church, there were all these bodies down there, of several of which do pop up and start to chase him as well. So we do get to see like the first infected people in the city here in this church scene, which leads into a little bit of a chase where he is essentially saved by two other non-infected people we see for the first time, Selena and Mark. Mark lasts a really long time in this movie, so.
I
Um,
was gonna say, in terms of, I think Justin, you talked about this character Celine and being kind of no nonsense. Man, did
Mhm.
they like? We need a scene that really establishes that really quickly. How about she kills a dude like a first beat?
Yeah, a dude she's known far longer than the one they just rescued. It's just like, wow, okay.
yeah. I will say I really loved when we see that first priest come through the door too. I don't know if this was direction by Danny Boyle or if this is specifically in the script or how they came up with this way to like portray the zombies in this movie though, with their really unnatural herky-jerky motions and their like flailing arm swings that they do. I mean, it feels and looks very different than any zombie movie that had come before that.
Well, what struck me so much, I remember watching this the first time, is just the concept of zombies that run.
Mhm.
It's just
Yeah.
a small detail, but like taking away that kind of like safety of the, well, if you can maintain a reasonable pace, you can out cardio these zombies. That is not the option here. It's quite the opposite.
Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I had that for later down in the thingy here, but we can touch on that. So there's a little bit of debate as far as first films with a running zombie. Some people even claiming as far back as Night of the Living Dead that there's one zombie that seems to trot faster than the other zombies in the film, and people argue that's the first one. But there were a couple of movies in the 80s, I guess, that had jogging zombies or something of that nature. But yeah, fully agree with you, Dan. This was the first time where I was like, no, I'm probably going to die in a zombie
Yeah.
invasion, actually. Yeah, I can't keep up with their cardio. And
And they never seem to get tired, so
yeah, I mean, fantastic way to just spin a trope for a character in scary movies too. Like, I don't know what you could even compare it to. Like, give Dracula some new power or like,
Yeah.
some other iconic thing that's just different. And you're like, whoa,
Stormtroopers that fly now. They fly now?
yeah. Or hit stuff with their laser rifles or something. I don't
For
know.
once.
It'd be crazy.
The closest thing I can think of is the Tremors movies, because the first three, at least, each one introduced a different like stage of their growth and development cycle. So it kept things fresh. It kept it a little unpredictable.
Hmm.
That's like the only example that's really coming to mind.
And then
Yeah.
my Ghoulies 4, they,
They were guys in suits. uh,
yeah,
ghoulies.
that's good stuff though, man. The Fast Zombies is so creepy. So
Yeah.
creepy.
Yeah, it is. It kind of amplifies like you mentioned, the limb movement, the awkwardness.
Yeah.
I mean, testament to those actors who actually like did that physical
Mhm.
performance, because you're taking someone that's already like a little bit weird and you have to like almost exaggerate your body motions, and then you
Mhm.
have to do it while running too. Like it is like
Yeah.
I don't remember seeing that on film, so they had to kind of create that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And it's a great visual of like just, the uncontrollable rage that's in them.
Yeah,
It's to
right.
such an extent that it's interfering with their motor skills. They see the object of what they want to destroy, and yet they're so filled with rage that even that is impairing their ability to reach it. It's kind of like you said, an accomplishment seeing, just that take on that idea. That's really cool.
Okay, we'll continue through here quickly. Jim demands that he go to his parents' house, where he does, and Selena and Mark go with him because they don't want to let this guy travel alone. And he finds out, I guess his parents died fairly peacefully, if you want to think of it that way. It looked like sleeping pills or something was how they chose to go out. So I guess they copied that from The Last of Us. Way to go. So there's that.
I thought that note the parents left for him though was really heart-wrenching, that like, don't wake up, don't wake up.
Oh,
Yeah,
yeah.
we left you sleeping. Now we're sleeping, or we're joining you. Or
Yeah,
don't
we'll
wake
see
up.
you
Yeah, it's
again, or
just,
something like
oh
that. Yeah.
man, there are some
Which,
real emotional moments in this film.
Yeah.
oh, yeah, for sure. Such as when Jim lights a candle, which is apparently what attracts the infected, or they must be able to see that really well through their bloodshot red eyes, or whatever the case is. But
Well, obviously it's infrared. They're seeing the infrared from the
I
candle.
guess, I guess. So anyway, they attack, and this is where you guys had already mentioned Mark gets chewed on a little bit in the attack, and Selena wastes zero fucking time putting him down like old Yeller behind the tool shed. So there's that. And then Selena and Jim basically are on their way. Oh, we didn't even mention the giant explosion they do at the
Oh,
gas station.
Yeah.
like they had that all set up, and they were just waiting to pop it off.
It seemed like a lot of setup for what was essentially like a 10-second attack, but
Right.
Or maybe UK gas stations are not as safe as we'd like to think.
that could be too. They
I'm
were
sorry,
also
it's petrol.
surprised.
It's
Petrol.
petrol
You're oh
over
my I
there.
apologize.
That's funny.
Uh,
Okay, and then we get introduced to our other two of the foursome here, where Selena and Jim see a light coming. I guess it's a signal light-ish, but like Christmas light type thing, flashing high atop an apartment complex that they make their way to, where they are again being chased by the infected, and they go up these stairs and it's actually kind of humorous because Jim is like crashing because there's no good food to eat anymore
Yeah.
during the outbreak, and so he's like sucking carbonated, caffeinated drinks and also pills to make his headaches go away. And then the infected start running up the stairs, which of course is like this big spiral-esque stairway in the apartment complex, which made for great cinema as well of them just like racing around these corners, like heading up. And then this guy steps out with riot gear basically to put down the infected, and it turns out to be Frank, we find out, who lives there with his daughter Hannah. And they stay there, but while they're there, they basically tell them about a radio signal that they have been getting on the radio. So, how did you like the first introduction to Frank and Hannah here?
Definitely, a memorable one. There's the whole signal, and then all of a sudden, well, if it attracts people, it's going to either the signal itself or the people going towards the signal are going to attract the infected. And so it's like, okay, that's a consequence that you have to expect. Seeing that Frank planned for it, with the riot gear, the shield, and like the baton and everything, it's like, okay, these people, despite it just being a father and daughter holed up in this random apartment, they seem like they know what they're doing. And an unlikely duo to survive this sort of thing, but I think it was a decent introduction to them.
I really appreciated seeing Frank first in that huge and like really intimidating body armor, like
Mhm.
and then all of a sudden him like taking off his nasty exterior, and now we're in our little comfort zone, and he's offering up tea and stuff like that. It was
Mhm.
a great to see that transformation. You're like, okay,
Yeah,
well, he's the big Papa Bear, but he's got to fill in for Mama Bear, like when the danger isn't here.
the creme de menthe in the good glasses.
Yeah. Um,
Hilarious.
The selection of alcohol that they show both here, and I'm thinking too when he's perusing the shelves in the supermarket later, like that sticks with me so much.
Yeah, don't get the shitty stuff, get the good stuff.
Yeah, right.
yeah, and the fact that he picks out like a scotch or whatever, I'm sure that's Joe's favorite scene.
Yeah.
Is the because as a scotch guy as he is.
Yeah,
Uh,
this movie does a lot of those good little details, I think, that just makes
It,
it seem believable
yes.
yeah.
as much as they can. Like the part where they're up on the roof and they're trying to collect rainwater, and you just get this far shot of, this guy has hundreds of containers on the ceiling just hoping to catch rain as it comes down, but
Yeah.
it
But
doesn't
yeah,
rain in
the
bloody London.
yeah.
All right, well then I'm gonna skip a jump here, but I'm just gonna kind of summarize this next chunk. It's not even in my plot summary, but I wanted to get it as one of my intangibles in the film anyway. What did you guys make of this next stretch? So they decide to go follow where this radio signal is telling them to go, and then we get a surprisingly long chunk of the movie here. I don't know how long it is. It feels like about 10 minutes. I don't know if that's accurate, of them like driving in this car, and it almost has like a road trip feel to it, and they're like sleeping under the stars, and there's dream sequences happening here, and Dan already alluded to like they hit up a convenience store and go through and shop for whatever they want. But it's a chunk of the film right here in this scene. So how did you make this out in your head? Is this just all character development we needed, or like I mean, it's a pretty big tension relief in the middle of this film.
Yeah, I give it credit because obviously the first, say, like third of the film is like all varying degrees of just like in tension. It gets really, really intense and like barely calms down. It gets really, really intense. So I can definitely see, as opposed to like other zombie films where there's a lot of like camaraderie and like low tension, like kind of subtle building at the beginning. This kind of does the opposite, where it hits you really hard, gets you into the world, things are bad. It then gives you a little bit of time with, okay, out of our small set of characters, these ones are going to stick around a little bit longer, and we're about to start having bad things happen to them. So you need to start getting more attached.
I think it also was a way to illustrate that maybe in the midst of all this, there is some amount of hope, because it's showing them in daily life. And if this whole infection, if this whole plague ever ends, daily life is something that is going to eventually become a thing again. So illustrating a few precious snippets of that in the middle of all of this chaos, all of this violence, I think it, A, like you said, it broke the tension, and B, it provided a sense of, maybe there is something worth living for.
Yeah.
And whether the rest of the movie bears that out well, we'll get to that. But I think it was important to establish the fact that it's not all just day-to-day survival. There is some time to breathe if this all blows over.
Yeah, I guess too. I was just thinking about it. I mean, this really serves as Frank's chunk of the movie in a way, right? Which
Hmm.
is, I can only imagine. Can you imagine being just like stuck with one other person only, and especially if it's your daughter, just like stories and stories up in this apartment complex. And this was like probably his chance to like get her out, and it's their best chance at survival they have with two other people there to help protect her and take her to that convenience store, the grocery store, and show her what it's like to be there. And driving, like Frank just seems like he's having so fun driving them around in his cab. The one scene where he's like driving over the vehicles in the tunnel, I'm not so sure that works like that, but damn it, they had fun Disney-esque style in the
Right.
1960s doing it. But also they must do that once in a while because Hannah pops down and gets that tire replaced pretty quickly too. So this is obviously not the first time they've been in the car out there. I also thought that scene was really fun because in a lot of these zombie and dystopian and apocalyptic video games and TV shows and movies, and it's like, you're this character who's like this character has to get from this point to this other point really far away in the city to be able to see if just maybe there's like any gasoline left they can find. But here, like it's literally 28 days since this shit broke out. So it's everywhere. So it's a whole different spin on that as well, which I really enjoyed. Like the fruit, the apples at the market were still good.
Yeah.
What do you call them? Like radiated or something?
Irradiated.
So I thought that was just a different way to handle, time passage and struggles for problems than you typically get with things, which I loved. So,
I read a lot into the sequence in terms of Frank and his daughter. My backstory is that Frank is probably like not that great of a dad in like the regular world. Like I could imagine him like forgetting a lot of things and focusing on stuff that wasn't important.
Mm.
All of a sudden the world flips and like a whole bunch of like his skills and his maybe his like instincts all of a sudden like click. And I might be reading way too much into this, but it just feels like the sense I get from him is that he, despite how awful things are, like he's like, but I'm getting really good quality time with my kid. Look at us, look at us learning things. She knows how to change a tire. I feel great about this.
yeah.
Yeah, I could see that.
I mean, I
like
think
that
that's
interpretation.
nice. Yeah, nice and optimistic. I like that interpretation also. Quite frankly, it's not
Tish.
intended, but there it was. Well, let's talk about the end of Frank. So here we go. They get out to the blockade where this radio signal was telling them to go, and Frank kind of loses his cool out here when he finds there's no hope and salvation awaiting them once they get to the place. I guess they had to find a way to do this. It seemed a little weird that there was a body like up on scaffolding or a pole or something up there. But anyway, Frank's yelling at this raven or something that's up there and kicks this pole essentially, and then a drop of blood falls from this infected body into Frank's eye, which is also a cool shot if I recall.
It really is.
Following the drop down and everything.
Yeah, and then Dan, to your point, that immediately, we have in such a short time come to love like this father-daughter pairing, and we know that it's the end of it. And he knows it's the end of it, so he very quickly is telling her he loves her and to stay away. And yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, another very emotional scene, I think, just because, yeah, it in the span of like 10, 15 seconds, yeah, he's gone from being, angry about their situation to realizing, oh shit, this is the end for me, and still trying his damnedest to keep the most important person to him safe. So yeah, it just that period of transformation, it was just incredibly well done, I think.
Yeah. And then again, that actor also, like we saw with like the priest earlier as well, like he could do that weird body jerky motion so well out of nowhere. And I was like, whoa, such a good performance.
Mm-hmm.
So he must have been pretty well exposed to like how virulent, I guess, this thing was, that he knew like one drop of blood and that's it. Because he didn't have any kind of questions or doubts, like, oh, maybe I'll make it through this. Whereas other zombie things are definitely like, oh, I just got a little on my shoulder or whatever, and like
even Mark, like after he got bitten, he's like, wait, no, I can, and then being hacked apart, yeah.
Yeah.
So yeah.
I was gonna say we're put in a situation here where I think Selena essentially is shouting to Jim to kill Frank. And we really have not seen Jim hurt anyone except oddly a young boy who attacked him at like a gas station they were at, which is kind of gruesome of itself. But he does not have to do this or do Frank dirty, as it were, because soldiers pop up and kill Frank with just a couple bullets. Just like Bonnie and Clyde. All right.
Yeah, no wasted blood whatsoever.
Yeah, right. Okay, then we get to the probably biggest chunk of the movie here, which is this fortified estate, if you will, where Jim and Selena and Hannah are taken to this large house, which has just ridiculous defenses around it, landmines and spotlights and a siren that they keep over by the blockade area and some other things. And they meet our fifth character here of our five we highlighted earlier, Major Henry West, and his soldiers. Luckily, this is a happy house that they are taken to. Everything's good, and that's the end of the movie.
We are not the real monsters all along.
No.
That'd be crazy talk.
That's not it. Well, as it turns out here, all is not what it seems at this house, which is just shocking, where they have been using their radio message essentially to try to get females to their house because they're a house full of guys, which is explained in the movie, I guess, as they need hope for the future to go on. You can't have hope without ladies because you can't have kids and the world's going to end. Again, keep in mind this is like 28-ish days after this outbreak
Yeah.
has broke out. It could be longer, I guess, right? It could
A
have
few
been
days,
longer.
maybe a week longer, considering it took them time to get
Oh,
from point A to point
so it
B.
might be 30 days because at 30 days the whole sexual slavery thing becomes really justified and okay. 28, way
Yes,
too early.
I
correct.
mean,
Well,
it's codified into laws.
because I was just thinking, like, do we know how long? We don't know how long Jim was in the coma for, correct? Oh, we do get to 28
28,
days
yeah.
later on the screen as the text. Okay, I guess so.
But
Yes.
him, finding Frank and Hannah, and then them getting
Yeah.
from the apartment to there. Yeah, that's at least a week, I'd say.
Yeah. Okay.
So 35 days later ish.
35 days later.
That's still not a really long span of time, though. You're right.
No, you wouldn't think so. I guess maybe just from how quickly society has collapsed on itself, maybe that's driving some of the paranoia.
And that, that's the only kind of benefit to the doubt I can give is that the soldiers, like, in terms of like their fortifications, they're not like, oh, we need to just last a couple weeks. They're like, no, 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 we're castling up. This is our fiefdom. Like,
Yeah.
they just immediately move to that. And I guess not having lived through that experience, I don't know how realistic that is, but British people do love them castles. So.
They do love them castles. All right.
Uh,
Well, I don't even know how many, maybe nine soldiers or so. I'm not going to get into all of the soldiers because I
they
don't know
say
that
at
that's
one
that
point.
important.
They say at one point it's no more than 10. I don't quite remember the exact number, but they say, what can X number of men do, for the future, and they do give a specific number of soldiers, and I don't remember exactly how many it was.
I'm counting 9 from the cast list.
Okay.
9 from the cast list. Okay.
Yeah.
I guess this is where we also find out. Well, long story short, the ladies are taken in to be sex slaves, essentially. Jim doesn't go along with the plan, and there is another soldier, Sergeant Farrell. I guess I will mention him, who also refuses to go along with the plan. And so the two of them are put into a makeshift prison, chained up. And this is where we do get a little more world building of all places, where this other guy tells Jim that, and it seems like rambling at the time, I'll be honest, when we first hear it, that the infection didn't spread across the Atlantic Ocean, and it's basically the Isles of Great Britain that are screwed with this quarantine. And it seems, at least to me it did, watching it, that guy was probably a little conspiracy theory nutso. But we do get shortly after this, as these two are taken out into the woods to be shot, Jim looks up and sees a jet fly in the sky, which does show that there is something else out there. Somebody's out there yet.
Or the zombie pilots, but probably not that.
Zombie pilots. Dun, 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 dun. Okay. So yeah, so they're out in the woods, and then we are going to get essentially Farrell being shot, and then the two soldiers that brought them out there arguing, and then Jim uses this distraction of the two soldiers to basically hide face down in a pile of bodies initially to hide himself, but then later. Okay, so let's talk about this next section because what? Like, I love the next section of this movie as cinema. I don't get how a guy that was just in a coma for 28 days and was like reestablishing how to walk and has had no good food and nutrition since then suddenly becomes like zombie killer Jesus here. What's happening? How does this guy do this?
Yeah, it is a suspension of disbelief, that's for damn sure.
That part always kind of rubbed me a little bit wrong. He just turns into like this bloodthirsty killer who can not only use the elements to his advantage, and he's quick enough to get back to the blockade and do the siren to bring the major away from his troops so he can attack more of the troops. But then also, like, there's a scene where he taps on like a secret passageway and goes into a secret passageway.
Yeah, I that had me shaking my head too.
That's not explained anywhere, right?
It's like he just turns into Rambo. Well, spoilers, it's a Rambo movie.
We don't know how many times he's seen First, so it's very
true.
possible.
It's like he climbs up and he's like hiding in the rafters at one point, I think, to drop on a guy. What?
He gains like superhuman powers all of a sudden.
Yeah, really, I don't know. Maybe he's got more of that rage in him than we think. But I will give. There's definitely, you could suspend some disbelief in terms of these soldiers that have now been spending 30 days fighting zombies,
Mhm.
in terms of something that doesn't really think very well. So I'm sure that their sense of awareness in terms of something really stalking them as opposed to
Mm.
the horde just running at them, like it's probably down, so they probably feel especially safe in there. That said, no, it's he's still I don't know when Jim got jujitsu training, but
Yeah, it's pretty crazy. I mean, it would have made the movie worse, but in a small fraction better if he had just been like to Selena towards the end of the movie, like, "Oh, this used to be my great aunt's castle" or something.
oh yeah, right.
I used to play in the secret passages as a kid. Uh,
Oh.
so that part's weird, for sure. And then we're also going to get, I guess I'll mention this guy too, Private Mailer, who is also worth
Mm.
mentioning. He's the infected soldier that's there, definitely the most prominent zombie in the movie, that Jim basically frees. And then this guy's hunting Jim, but can never catch Jim. But essentially, this guy goes around and kills probably as many of the soldiers as Jim does, I would say.
Yeah. But
Um,
okay. Speaking of inconsistencies in this section,
yeah.
so throughout the movie, we're shown definitively that like the infected, they don't seem to care about each other. They don't attack each other. They don't like, see each other as anything other than just another moving thing that's kind of the same as me. So there's a scene where Hannah is hiding behind a mirror, and from one of the infected who comes into the room, and the infected don't react to each other, but for some reason this one reacts to its own reflection. Like what?
In,
It was
well, what do you mean? I think he looks at himself in the mirror and then sees himself and turns around and leaves.
well, he looks, but he like gets closer and like just kind of like looking at it, like trying to figure out what it is. But
Yeah.
he if it doesn't have it, like they clearly don't hunt by scent because they would
Right. Maybe
they
don't
hunt by
smell
sight.
her.
We saw with the yeah we saw with the candle, and if they did hunt by scent, he wouldn't smell anything in the mirror except I guess maybe Hannah. But at the same time, if he sees something in the mirror that looks like another infected, he why would he even like bother to investigate closer?
Mm-mm.
That struck me as weird because it sure it builds a bit of tension, like, oh, is it going to go around the side and get her? But
Yeah.
it just didn't make sense. So,
Well, someone we'll have to watch the other films to see if they maybe explain a little bit. Like maybe there's, and that's something that zombie films are so inconsistent. It's kind of like almost like vampire films, where like you have to like under okay, what are the rules of the zombies specifically? Like, yeah, are they aware? Do they like somehow know that they used to be human in some way, shape, or form? Like
Mm.
some films capitalize on that, and some don't.
Yeah.
Uh,
I had a bigger question about just Hannah being able to be smart enough in her current state to like hold herself up
yes,
behind the mirror for that long, to be quite frank.
like, is she drugged out or is she not? Because there are parts during the sequence where she like basically doesn't quite. She's sort of like just high because
Yeah.
Selena gave her a bunch of pills so that she wouldn't care about what was about to happen to her. So there's times where she seems like that, but then there's times where she thinks she's lucid enough to climb up on the mirror or like drive a fucking car or like know to drive a car backwards to block somebody in. It's like you can't have it both ways. Is she coked out of her mind or is
Mm-mm.
she like in is she in her possession of her full faculties? So yeah, that
Yeah.
part also kind of just
That's fair.
there's parts I like about the sequence, like you said, but there's parts that I really dislike too.
Yeah, that's fair. Okay. And then this all ends essentially with them trying to escape in Frank's car, as you just mentioned. And then Major West apparently is, I think he was in the car, was he not at first?
I
Was
think
in the back
so.
seat or he was like on the back of the car. I don't remember, but somehow
Mhm.
he shoots Jim essentially, before, like you mentioned here, she kind of slams the brakes and then Private Mailer gets the major and drags him off into the house, essentially sealing the deal on the end of the soldiers here.
Mhm.
I have this later in my notes too to discuss, but I feel like it'd be more worth it to touch on it here. And that is Dan in particular, I wanted to ask, but also anybody else's opinion on this one. The music in this movie is
Oh yeah.
really interesting to me. And if you go back and watch this scene in the house, like once they take Jim out essentially to shoot him and then he escapes, it essentially is like a 5 to 10 minute long chase
Yes.
scene with one song like playing through the whole thing. And the song is played over dialogue. It's played over sound effects. Like it doesn't stop. Nothing,
No.
dampens it or ceases it, and it just kind of goes through. And it's kind of like this whole movie has a really interesting style to the sound, I think. the theme in the house I was reading about earlier because that like it plays so long in the movie, but that theme itself, I guess, has gone on to be famous enough that it has
Yes.
been in other video games and advertising campaigns and TV shows
Huh.
as well. That particular house theme itself. So, what you think
Huh.
of the sound in this? I was kind of curious.
Well, I'll give the title of that song you're talking about. It is called "In the House in a Heartbeat," and so I think
Hmm.
the building element of it, because it starts really softly in the beginning when Jim's outside, and it seems like every like 10 to 20 seconds it adds another element. It just keeps building and building until
Hmm.
that electric guitar, which is I think really bold for a zombie film, is like that's one of the main instruments you constantly hear is this electric guitar coming in. It builds into that when he like Jim's inside and he's really prowling against the soldiers. Like it is phenomenal and it made a huge impact. I literally remember how many times I listened to that individual track. For a while that was like one of my study tracks. If I just needed to like really zone in, I
Hmm.
would play that because it was so long and it like built it kind of just built so much as it went on. So that song in particular is amazing. I'll go back. The other song that really struck me from the soundtrack is actually back in the supermarket. I believe the title of the track is AM 180 by Granddaddy, and it's very like super synth poppy for this really dour film when they're going through the supermarket and like having their little shopping expedition. All of a sudden, you have this like extremely poppy, like kind of British techno song. Like that was a great one as well.
Yeah, good call. I just went back and listened to both of those while you were talking. Yeah, that one
Yeah,
is so bizarre,
Mhm.
the supermarket song.
it's just out of the rest of it. It's so out of place, but it feels right for that scene.
Yeah.
It feels like it belongs in a shopping center, kind
Yeah.
of. Yeah. But yeah, I do have to give kudos to the one during the attack on the house, the base, because that yeah, it is such a long and such a complex progression that it's like okay, this really encapsulates the feeling of just a long shot that builds momentum and suddenly it's beyond like anyone's control, like it's just reached a climax, reached a crescendo, and the die has been cast, and yeah, this place is doomed. That track is the one that really stood out to me the most, and I remember bits and pieces of the rest of the music but not a ton. Yeah.
I think that's the one that really those two really stand out
Yeah.
to me.
Yeah.
Yeah, I would agree. I probably would not have thought to mention the supermarket one, but now that you said it and I listened to it again, I was like, oh yeah, I can like visually see the scene just
Right.
from the music
Mhm.
as it plays through. And this one in the house is just, I just feel like I don't know. I will say this to go on record. I don't know that I love it, but it is so standout
Yeah.
worthy. I was trying to think of movies where they're bold enough to have that music go over top of everything else that's happening in the movie. And it's like the scene is this darkened house, and for a lot of it's people running around, and there's kind of like action without a lot of noise that we're seeing play out. But there is a little dialogue. There is
Hmm.
definitely sound effects of people tromping through with their steps and guns going off and things of that nature. And then there's like this blistering rainstorm that's going through the whole thing as well. And so we have that sound in there, and it's just like this cacophony that this song is going over top of, and it definitely is memorable. I will say that.
I'll tell you, Edgar Wright films. That's what that scene. I don't even know if Edgar Wright had films out at this point. But like as you're describing it in terms of movies that make it a point to go like, no, this is the song. This song is the through line of these couple scenes. There is going to be other stuff that's happening, but you need to focus on the song. Edgar Wright's really, really strong in that, and I'd say this is an Edgar Wright-esque move in terms of like you're saying, like the song's the through line of what's
Yeah.
happening in these scenes.
So the real question is the maze sequence from Alien 3. Do you think it would have been improved with a 5 minute long song that played during the entirety of it?
You know,
Yes. And that
Uh,
song would have been Weep.
I would, yeah, right.
Yes.
uh,
That's funny.
Just David Lynch screaming at the studios behind the scenes. Yeah.
That's funny.
uh,
All right. Okay,
Also
well,
say that.
go ahead.
Sorry, we're talking about soundtracks, so I
Yeah,
don't
yeah,
want to
go
go
ahead.
super into this. I'll say another thing about that song standing out versus the rest of them, and it's kind of like again the thematic. All the previous encounters where like the music needs to come in. It's very sudden ramps. It's like shit, zombies are here now. Everything's on, especially with how running zombies are. So there's a lot of like almost zero to like Metallica in terms of the soundtrack coming in. So I think that's another reason why this stands out is because it's not about the zombies, it's about Jim. It's about human on human. Again, this like predation, but a predation very differently, like that we have been seeing.
Yeah.
So I think it's one of the reasons why it stands out so well, and it really is memorable.
I still don't, again, I don't know how Jim magically is Super Hunter at this point
I don't
in
know.
the film. However, it's
Oh, he put on his plot armor and just
I mean, do you? But we've already established in the movie a few times how quickly that rage virus changes people. Because if we didn't have that timeline established, then we could be like, okay, he's changing, like his senses are heightening or something's going on. Because when he does finally see Selena, she goes to like bash him,
Mhm.
and then she's like, "Oh wait, you're fine," and he's like, "Yeah, what? Like we need to get out of here." And we're like, "Well, because we just watched you like assassinate dudes from the shadows, like
it's
you're in an
yeah, fair.
Ubisoft game for 5 minutes. That's why." Um, okay, so they get out of here. We're going to get one more text screen that says 28 days later again. And then this one, we find the trio. This would be Selena, Jim, and Hannah at some cottage, basically. Not really clear exactly where this is at. They do give us one additional shot of the infected basically dying around and seemingly like starving, falling apart. I don't know. Something's happening to them, though. They are ceasing to function as they were. So when the major had talked about Private Mailer, they were going to watch to see how long it took him to die as the infected that they had chained up so that they know how long these things lived for. I guess we are approaching that range essentially of what that is going to be, which makes me all the more curious, I will say, to not remember the movie 28 weeks later or figure out how there is a 28 years later, which I'm intrigued to see because I don't know how this could possibly propagate for that period of time. So, with how fast it kills people off, I guess. Unless it re-breaks out, I don't know, something, but then we see here Jim is kind of healed up, and Selena is basically using a sewing machine to craft these giant sheets. Apparently, they found the cottage with the most sheets in the world in it, and the largest sheets in the world, so that they could spell out the giant word "hello" to a plane
It
that
is
happens to
England.
fly.
Textiles is a big thing there. I can see
Yeah,
that.
sure, sure. And then the plane goes overhead, and then they basically make some quippy comment like, "Do you think you saw that one?" or something like that at the
Mhm.
end of this all. So we just think of the proper ending to the film.
Right?
Ah,
Enjoyable, I guess. Because I'm trying to think how many other shows had like gone with a really darker ending for this kind of stuff. Because I really think of The Walking Dead as one of the first like Game of Thrones s like ain't nobody gonna make this all the way through it kind of a thing. So this was before
Hmm.
Walking Dead. So this was
mhm.
kind of the expected thing of okay, it might not be a large number, but we're gonna have a couple survivors. So I wasn't really surprised, I guess.
Yeah, once they showed that scene of the plane like going overhead, it's like, okay, there is there is a society out there still. So I'm glad that they were able to reconnect some of the characters from this to that society. I mean, because honestly, after everything they fought through, they deserve some sort of reward, so to speak. So I mean, I liked it. It was a more uplifting ending to a zombie film
Yeah.
than I'm used to by a big stretch.
This is where,
So
again, like, I don't remember 28 Weeks Later at all. 0%. I'm sure I've seen it, but 0% where I'm like, maybe they don't ever go pick him up. I have no idea. I don't even know if it's the same cast. And to be honest, I don't want to look because I'm going to let that be a surprise for when I watch it for next time. So,
I just read the synopsis of that one, and it's like, okay, I do kind of sort of
oh,
remember a few
okay.
scenes from it.
That's
Yeah, but
interesting.
it's yeah, I
Well,
have not seen
maybe
28 Years Later though, so I'm curious about that one.
I'll have to see what that is when we get to it. And then, Dan, I saw your eyes light up here a little bit because it turns out that we have not one, not two, but much like Clue, we had three alternate endings to this film.
Ooh.
So, alternate ending one, it says these are on the DVD that came out originally, which was basically short. Jim died from his gunshot wounds. So, I don't
Huh.
know for sure if the rest is the same, if they get picked up as they would have, or the message goes out as they would have, but
Hmm.
it's a little bleaker. The second one, we have Jim dreaming of the accident. I guess actually maybe even showing us how he got into the coma to begin with at the beginning of the film, and then dying from his gunshot wounds in the second one here, which I'll be
Mhm.
honest, I watched the film and I did not even I guess that's my fault for being a shitty watcher, but I did not even really even process that he had been shot fairly by the major at the end of the film. I don't know if I just missed that half second
Oh.
or what, but I was like, wait, why is he bandaged up? Oh, okay. Apparently he was shot. Didn't even catch that. So
Hmm.
let's see here. And then we also have a third ending, which is a more radical ending, it says here on Wikipedia. That was only ever in storyboards or is presented in storyboards. I don't know which way this is, I guess, reading
Hmm.
ambiguously here. But instead of Frank being killed by the soldiers, the other survivors tie him up and then later discover a research laboratory at the blockade where Jim goes through a blood transfusion to save Frank. So apparently, this is the super optimistic
Yeah,
ending.
really.
Huh.
So,
Yeah, where there's actually a cure
Yeah.
somehow. Okay.
Which always, I love the fact whenever a cure comes up, you can sit around and go like, "What did we do to all the people who were zombies that we couldn't
yeah.
now cure?" Oh,
Hmm.
oh, sorry about that.
I always love when they do the blood transfusion thing too. It's like we need to purge all of the blood out of your body completely, and then I'm going to give you all of the blood out of my body, while
There's no
the
risk of this
virus
at
in your
all.
body doesn't infect this new blood that I'm putting into your body at the same time. This will go well. Don't worry about it. This will go well.
Science.
Yeah,
More
right.
straps, please.
Exactly. Exactly. Let's see. I don't remember this. Says the US cinematic release also included one of the alternative endings after the film's credits
Huh.
in response to intense online debates over whether or not they were a more appropriate conclusion than the official ending. I don't remember if I even stuck around
Oh,
or if there was anything when I
yeah.
saw this.
For
Yeah.
the MCU, so credits meant leave.
Yeah,
Yeah,
pretty much.
that's
Huh.
pretty true. Yes. So,
Interesting.
yeah, so that's the the film, as it were. I had a couple more here for you guys, though. Wanted to ask your opinion on this because I remember being a big debate back in the day.
Mhm.
Are these zombies or are these not zombies?
Oh, yeah, right. Great question.
Virus,
Because
Well, I mean, we see several of them get killed just with like body shots. So if your definition of zombie is the living dead, that can only be killed by destroying the brain or by removing the head or destroying the brain, then no, these are not zombies. There's a reason the movie keeps calling them infected. I mean, we've used the term zombie just because it does sort of, it's very much in keeping with the feel
hmm
of that genre, but by a strict definition of what a zombie is, no, they are not. Unless you're getting into the like Haitian voodoo type of zombies, and that even then it's not exactly the same thing, but that's a little closer. But movie zombies, no, they are not technically zombies.
I would make, I think, a very fair comparison and ask the question: do you think the Twilight people are zombie or vampires?
just the fans.
Just the fans, nice.
Fair.
So I think it's kind of the similar thing where is like they're I mentioned a lot of these films they have to like kind of like reestablish, okay, these are the rules we're using for this.
Right.
And I think this movie did that in terms of going, especially like in the beginning in the lab, you're like, these are the rules we're playing by. And whether we use the term zombie or not, like it carries enough of the tropes. I definitely put this in the zombie film, but I quite honestly, like I think it's like an elevated version of the zombie film.
Hmm.
Hmm. Yes, my take on this, I don't know. I guess I would say if you're just talking for a different definition about like a body that has been animated for some purpose wherein it's hunting other people and following some laws of disintegration and death, then I guess so. I could see how people wouldn't classify this as zombie, but essentially, I mean, from everything we've seen, they function as zombies
Yeah.
more or less.
It feels very hair splitting to be like
Yeah,
it's not
I do
exactly
remember.
Well,
zombies.
Well, it's like okay,
Yeah.
say you had a movie about like cannibals, like backwoods hillbilly cannibals that just, were, only driven by their hunger, only driven by their hatred of other people that come onto their land or whatever. Are those zombies? Because they're pretty much driven by the same things that we're seeing the zombies here. Yet they're still very much living and breathing. You can still kill them, with a bullet to the chest or whatever. Do they qualify as zombies?
Yeah, that's a great comparison because like
Probably because they probably voted red, so.
damn.
I've been deleting a lot of those comments, but I might leave that one in. Boom! Enjoy your snap cuts and your Medicaid benefits running out. All right, anyway. Yes. So
Again, back to the core message of this movie. We are the real monsters.
Yeah.
exactly. There it is.
Uh,
Also wanted to ask you guys because I had this question as well. So I different from a zombie. I guess this is tangential to that, but different from a zombie movie where you have to like be bitten or maybe even scratched in some cases, that type of thing. This one is entirely dependent on the blood having a chance to infect you. So it's really more like I don't even, like an STD or something in some way. Like you have to
Yeah.
be physically blended with this person in order for it to happen. But is this a believable method for this rage virus to transmit where we have a movie that so many people just straight up bludgeon people with objects and blood just sprays and flies? And I'm thinking like the boy Jim killed in the gas station, he just like beached to death and there's just like blood flying, or like in
mhm.
the even the soldiers that he's attacking and there's just like blood flying. I'm like, you wouldn't be paranoid about a single drop of that like entering into your eye like killed Frank as you just saw?
Right.
Well, okay. So since you have just recently brought in the political element of it, it's very fascinating that we have in our recent history had different infections, viruses that we are trying to work collectively together towards minimizing the damage, and facts about its transmission rate, or at least what was known at the time, was questioned harshly. So I'd say it's very likely that some of this information got out about the transmission and what to avoid. I think Frank, knowing that as soon as that drop landed in his eye, is evidence that like he was listening to all this shit and going okay, or like maybe collating rumors or something like that. And I'd say that there's other people that are like, no, fuck no, it's not the blood. Like but before COVID, I would not have believed we would see such a like ignoring facts and being overly suspicious about large bodies trying to help people survive this. But now, having been through COVID, I no longer am skeptical about that. And I just assume any kind of tragic event there are. I'll reference the movie Don't Look Up. There's going to be just a segment of the population who's like, no, whatever you're telling me not to do, I'm going to do quite the opposite. So I'm going to bludgeon everyone and lick up all their blood just to show you.
Yeah, it's just but like even the people who seem like they believe it, like Selena. I mean, she lays into
Yeah,
Mark
that's a
with a
good example too.
machete.
Yeah.
Yeah, and she's just like screaming the entire time as she's hacking him, like mouth open, blood spattering everywhere. The fact that she didn't get infected is just astounding to me. But you think she would have, yeah, it's an emotional moment, and yeah, he's someone that you had up until like 5 seconds ago called a friend and a trusted companion. Uh, but at the same time, you think she would have been more with it and more worried about that. And it's just, it really seems like with all of that in the air flying around, she should not have stayed normal at the end of it. I don't know. It just feels like, regardless of what the actual rules are in the movie, it feels like sometimes the movie doesn't abide by them
Oh
just for
yeah,
the sake of cinematics.
it definitely does some bending. But here, let me ask both of you this question. So in this world, with
Mhm.
these rules about the easy blood transmission,
Mhm.
what portable weapon would you use to defend yourself?
Mm. Oh,
Because
Yeah, I
it
mean
might boil
it's a
down
good
simply to like
question.
what other alternatives do they have? Bludgeoning is the best, but bludgeoning definitely carries a big risk with it as well.
it does.
Yeah, a blunt object would have less chance of blood spraying, theoretically, but also less chance of putting the thing down that's attacking you as well.
Yes.
So, yeah,
Do
tank, probably
we?
tank.
Well, tank is fair. Attract some attention, sure, but
Petrol
uh,
station, go with petrol station.
petrol station, that was a good choice.
do we
Flamethrower.
know do we know how they react to like electric shocks? Because I mean, by and large, they
Oh,
do seem to still be alive. So like a stun
That's
baton, it doesn't have the blood spatter. It might
yeah.
it might incapacitate them, allow you to get away. Sure, you'd have to worry about batteries for it, or charging it or whatever. But it's the least apt to lend
Risky.
itself to particulate transmission. So
Yeah, no, that's a good call.
thank you.
I guess by the same token, flamethrowers or any other kind of burning
Mhm.
mechanism.
Yeah, because we have
yeah,
seen them get lit on fire and presumably eventually die from that.
Yeah.
maybe would cauterize the wound also. I don't know. We also don't know like how, again, it's part of the world, like how long does the blood stay active
Contagious?
for and
Yeah.
dangerous for? Yeah,
Hmm.
contagious. If it's
I
a
don't know.
body smashed on the side of the road a week later, is it still contagious or is that,
I mean, there was the crow eating the dead one that ended up infecting Frank. So
Yeah.
who knows how long that guy had been there?
it looks like a while to
So
be fair. So,
yeah.
Yeah.
So I don't
yeah,
know.
so good thing Jim stuck his face down into that big pile of bodies then, just in
Yeah.
case.
Right.
That's a great.
Uh,
All right, let's see what else we got here. I just got a couple last notes, which is let's talk a little about camera work in this movie. What do you got, Dan? You got anything you want to say? I thought there was a ton of really creative and beautiful shots in this one. Justin,
Oh,
anything from you on this one too? I'm
I'll
intrigued.
say camera angles, but also say lighting. I think that their use, especially of like the color red at select moments, in
mm,
terms like especially like flooding scenes with red, is really, really great thematically to like you start to really associate that red color with the rage.
yeah. And I will say I appreciate that there was some frenetic camera movement in this, like, during the high action shots. But I think this is a little before the whole shaky cam fad really kicked in. So it's you can still follow what's going on. Yes, it's a little jerky at times, but it imparts that sort of kinetic force, that feeling of panic without being just kind of lost as to what the hell you're looking at because the camera's just jostling around like it's in an earthquake. So I appreciate the use of motion without it being an overuse because that
Yeah.
gets obnoxious after a while.
I think Blair Witch was only a year or two before this. I
99, a couple years before.
so I think
Yeah.
the industry had like gotten through and understood there are some times when the shaky cam like has a really important effect, but not the whole film.
Yes.
Which is yeah. So I think we're in that glorious phase where we know how to use it selectively instead of overly.
Hmm. Yeah, which makes all the difference.
Yes.
Yeah. Yeah, I noted a lot of shots that just felt really cool with the camera work in this movie. There were even a few that were shot diagonally in the film really quickly, scenes here and there, which I thought was really creative, just kind of show the twisted world they're in again.
Hmm.
A
Mhm.
ton of shots that were far away
Yeah.
that didn't have to be far away or wouldn't have been far away in a different film.
Hmm.
Yeah, the burning city that they see just in the horizon, and
Mhm.
you don't need any other detail. I thought it was really effective, just going like, okay, we're not going there because
Yeah.
obviously shit's much like at least London's not actively on fire.
Mhm.
Yeah. There were some shots of Jim, I think, early when he's by himself that are just they filmed from really far away, and that does give us that scale and scope of the city that he's in by himself, but also like, in a different film that could have been a close-up shot or just a medium
Mhm.
shot of him, which would have done the same thing. So yeah, a lot of that, and there was also a lot of shots where they would have something in the foreground blocking like part of the scene and then or the
Mhm.
shot rather, and then they'd have him in the background or the action be happening back there.
Mhm.
But a lot of really creative uses with the camera in this one, so I'm intrigued to see the other ones and
Yeah.
also see what else I've missed by this guy because the camera works really well done.
I'll
Mhm.
also point out, and obviously it's supposed to be juxtaposed to everything else going on, but like the amount of like nature photography, especially in terms of that like that cool soothing feeling of like now we're seeing this clear field or like we're seeing a couple flowers here and
Yeah,
like I those really stood out to me. I was like moments of like relief when I saw like vegetation.
the horses that they see they're
Oh
Yeah.
watching
yeah.
while they're
I
camped
think they're
there.
getting along just fine, or whatever that line is. Yeah.
Yeah, or the rats
Hey, they
running.
survived,
They they did survive, so we think. Which
But
is
also there's this interesting juxtaposition there about, rats running from a plague instead of being the cause of the plague. And I thought that was
Yeah, there you
kind
go.
of interesting too.
yes, or even
Yeah.
like rats as vermin, like chewing on decomposing things, and they're like, "Nah, we're not touching those.
Hmm.
We're out of there."
Yeah. Yeah. So just it's subtle but effective, I thought.
And then last note I had here, then you guys can take anything else you have, but just the overall like what really sets this film apart, I think. Part of it's the music, part of it's the camera work, but it all together just really makes the film feel gritty. That's the word I kept coming up with, is just like compared to, Army of the Dead or Land of the Dead or Night of the Living Dead or whatever other zombie movies came around this time
World War
period. Just
Z.
yeah, it,
Ah,
it
World War
just
Z,
seems
yeah.
so dingy and gritty and dirty and
It felt more real. because of
Yeah,
that.
it really did. It didn't, like we said, it doesn't exactly feel like found footage, but it feels like it's way closer to that than an overly produced element.
Mhm. Yeah, I think all pretty much all of the effects in this were practical, except for maybe a few camera, angles or like things like that. But you saw a zombie or an infected running after somebody that was an actual person,
Yeah.
um, and that really adds a sense of weight and a sense of reality to what you're seeing. So yeah, that's a big part of it. Whereas I know World War Z had a lot of CGI in it,
Oh
so it's
yeah.
So
too much
much.
CGI. So yeah, that went a long way towards just grounding this in believability, I think.
Yeah,
And
I'd
also,
I'd agree.
having really, really grounded characters too. We didn't have
Mm,
a like Arnold Schwarzenegger-esque super badass. Celine was close to that, but she's more of a badass you might bump into on the tram.
mm.
But these characters, they all felt really real and relatable, and you felt like you had people in your life who would react this way in this situation.
Yeah, minus Jim's inexplicable, super soldier abilities towards the end, but
Yes.
yeah.
We don't talk about that. But yeah, yeah, I'd agree. I mean, it did feel different. It's so gritty, it almost feels non-focused from like a filming perspective or like blurry at times, but yet
Mm,
it
Yeah.
just helps that film establish its own identity, I feel like in a
yeah.
genre that has had, quite a few of these. Still, even when we watched it a couple nights ago, I was like, this still feels different than stuff I have
Mhm.
seen in the years since this. Um, but yeah, anybody have any thoughts we didn't cover tonight?
I think we were pretty thorough, all things considered.
Okay, well,
Yeah.
let's throw some ratings on this bad boy then and see if we're close to any of those pre-mentioned Rotten Tomato rankings or anything's around there. I can go first on this one, I don't mind. It was a film I was actually happy. I got the idea and spread this idea to you guys to do a podcast on this because actually my daughter of all people said she had heard the film was good and wanted to watch it, and I was like, okay, get ready to watch some Harry Manbush. But anyway, no, I didn't say that, but we did watch it together, and it was a fun ride. We had the lights off in a dark room, and we sat and watched the whole thing in one setting, thankfully, and it was a good time just to kind of share the moment. But also, it was a film that I hadn't seen in a really long time, and it's mostly held up. There's definitely those parts where there's a bit of logic that doesn't quite make sense, but the movie itself is really good. The characters are good. I love the way this is presented. It just feels so different than anything else. It's not perfect, but it is really, really good. Some interesting choices with pacing in this, I will say. I can't say that I didn't like the pacing, but just some interesting ways they break up the tension with some other scenes in here. But I'm gonna go. I'll put this at like a 7.75. I think it's pretty solid. Maybe just a little below an 8 to me.
So I'll go next because my score is basically the same. This is a movie came out in 2001. I remember when it came out, and even though I haven't watched it regularly, so many of the scenes are crystal clear in my mind, and just being able to like kind of rewatch in my head has been fantastic, and then seeing it again to see how much of it really like held up. It is. I mentioned this earlier. I really view it as a zombie film, but like an elevation. Someone took a genre I know and really was able to add elements into it that made it like extra above and beyond. So that I think it really speaks to it, and the fact that the film style, the effects still hold up. This is 20 plus years on now. Like
Yeah.
if you think about it, like if you're watching zombie films from the 70s and the 90s, you were laughing at what it looked like. So this is like this holds some serious impact. And I think it's a testament to the fact that we're still getting films in this series. And a lot of other zombie things have gone to the side. So there's a reason for that, that this film really has stuck out and lasted the test of time. As much as I enjoy the Resident Evil films, they were coming out about the same time as this. And like this felt like a breath of fresh air compared to those films.
Yeah.
Did you say what your rating was?
Sorry, 7.7.
Okay. Okay, so I know I said technically these are not zombies, but 28 Days Later does embody a lot of elements, a lot of archetypes of the zombie film, which in a way is almost to its detriment, I think, because this is very much a like if someone came to me and said, "Hey, could you show me like recommend a movie to that really encapsulates what a zombie film is. I would probably say this one because it hits so many of the tropes, for better or worse. Um, it's got the lone protagonist that wakes up or that ends up in a place where he doesn't know where he is. He has to kind of figure out where he's going. It's got you meet a ragtag group of survivors, and you end up having to try to work out your differences or fail to work out your differences to try to survive. There's no cure. But the biggest thing is that the message that we are the real monsters, which is something that's really been part of this genre since Night of the Living Dead. Like presumably we all know how that movie ends. And if you don't go watch it, it's also a very good film. But at the same time, really, this movie just leans so hard into the tropes that yes, it has some human elements which do to help to elevate it, and yes, it does have zombies that move faster than your traditional depictions of the creatures. Um, but at the same time, it just has such a leaning on stock tropes that have become stock at least at this point that it's a bit above average, but not much, in my opinion. I'm going to go 6.5 on this one. It's still a very watchable film, with 5 being absolutely average. So this is above that. But it doesn't really. It's nothing where I would be itching to sit down and watch it again, is the thing. If it were on, I'd consider it, but it's not one of those films that I would add to my running repertoire of real classics, unfortunately. Above average, but not really noteworthy, especially because so many of the tropes have been done over and over and over again at this point. There's not a whole lot for it to stand out.
Hmm. So we got 7.32 overall today, so we're a little closer to IMDb's rating than Rotten Tomatoes, but still pretty good with 6 being crap and 8 being a classic. We're more towards classic than crap on this one, but maybe not quite in the full zone here, but still an enjoyable rewatch. This was good. So I think we have several of these series now that we'll have to keep picking off entries of in the weeks and months to come. Ah, weeks and months to come.
Oh,
We keep going through. That'll be
Calendars.
fun. Oh, good stuff. All right, let's see. Anything else we got coming up here? I think our next podcast, if we can pull off our large crew that we're trying to coordinate for this one, is going to be a musical episode, and we won't say what it is quite yet, but I'll just say, come pick me up. I've landed. Wink. Little winky wink there to
Nothing like a
everybody.
visual wink on an audio podcast.
Visual. Well, so I did the wink sound effect also. Sorry, do it again, but play that song over top of it. Dun. There we go. Now we need the supermarket music actually over top of that instead.
Yes.
There we go. All right. Anything else from you guys tonight?
No. I mean, I'm not sad that I revisited this, but yeah, it's I think it hit better when it first came out. So
I probably would have been a little higher than 2, I bet, but it still holds
mhm.
up pretty well in my book.
Yeah.
Okay.
Honestly, it's really just those few inconsistent parts of the movie that lower it down for me more than anything, because the rest of it I find pretty solid. So
Hmm.
if I knew where he knew that secret passage from, maybe he played Clue and just was running around. I mean, Clue is a British game, so that's probably why everybody in Britain's probably just trained to run through mansions and tap on walls.
Yeah, it's the witches and wardrobes. All those British children, they just know you get
Yeah,
into like one of those big mansions, you start
that's
looking
got to
for
be
damn
something.
hidden passages.
Absolutely, absolutely,
Either hidden passage or secret scrumpets. That one of the two it's gonna be.
absolutely.
Uh,
Goodness. All right. All
all
right. I
right.
think that's going to do us all here at Friends Occasionally Not Disagreeing. It's the Fun Pod, everybody. I'm Cody. That's Dan. That's Justin. We will see you all next time.
Thank you.
Bye.